Alright, flock, and welcome back to Blackphoenix Entertainment. I'm going to talk about this 2022 Can Am Ryker Sport. I've put some miles on it. I bought it in September of 2022. It is now June, as of me filming this, June of 2023. I have over 3,500 miles on this thing, and I think it's about time I talk about my time with it. Things I've run into, riding it, just in general, if I am happy with it and all that fun stuff. So let's hop on the bike and talk about it. So to be exact, I have 3,710 miles on this Ryker. I bought this thing. I'm going to call it 0 miles. I know Doyle from Black and Doyle will be like, it wasn't 0. Okay, there might have been a few miles on it, but when you buy something new like that, showroom, I call it 0. He'll yell at me anyways. That's cool. So yeah, the Rykers. I know there's some love-hate relationships with the Rykers, and some people love them, some people hate them, some people are just kind of mid about them. Me personally, just to kind of straight out say this, I love this Ryker, and I'm probably going to get shanked for saying that. Before we got too far into this, and before I get shanked, why don't we get into this YouTube stuff and get that out of the way, and then I'll continue talking about this Ryker. Go down there, do the liking, subscribing, all the fun YouTube stuff. Share this video out with people who may like the Rykers or may be considering buying a Ryker. And in my description, I've got links for Blackphoenix merchandise where you can support the channel, and some discount codes for you guys to save some money through BLRtuning and Ironside Customs. And if you want to help me raise money for Moby Kit Rescue and Save the Kittens, if you're so inclined, you can do that too through my Ko-fi page, and I will hand that money off to them and save the cute little fluffy kittens. So, the Can Am Ryker is a hodgepodge Frankenstein type trike, and I don't think a lot of people know that. The Can Am BRP basically said, we have all these parts laying around. Let's see what we can do with them, see if we can make a trike out of them, and they kind of did. So obviously you got to make the frame and do some other stuff, but like this screen that we're looking at right now, this thing, I'm pretty sure that's out of a Commander. I've seen pictures of a Commander, and like that is the same exact LCD screen that the Ryker has. So things like that, and I get it, it's for cost-cutting measures and things like that. But then you run into issues when you do things like that, such as the gas tank. But I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm going to talk about things that I've run into personally riding this Ryker, and I don't know, just generally how I feel about it, and do I suggest it? So I made I was going to say a bunch. I think it's like 3, maybe 4 videos about the VSS fault that I had with less than 200 miles on this Ryker, and that is by far the most common fault you are going to get on Can Am Rykers is the VSS fault. The reason being, and again, I don't know why they decided this was a good idea, the engineers have 3 different sensors linked together to throw the same code, but for different reasons. And that's why dealers have such a hard time trying to figure out the VSS fault. And that's what happened with my dealer. If you watch those videos back, and that's why there's 3 different videos, because I would take it off the lot and they would just throw the code again, and I have to limp it back to the dealership, and yeah, it's just a bunch of fun. But so you got the yaw sensor, which obviously, you know, does yaw things and spinning of the tires and stability and stuff like that. Okay, that makes sense. You got the wheel speed sensors, which are also kind of linked with that whole system, which I kind of get, but I feel like those should also be a separate fault and a separate code. And what happened with me, and it's the steering angle sensor, which is in the front of the bike under the hood. That's what was throwing the VSS fault. So basically what was happening is the steering sensor was bad. So when I would turn the handlebars, it wasn't registering that I was turning the handlebars, but the speed sensors would freak out. I'd be like, hey, wait a minute, we're seeing this load, but our fellow steering sensor is not telling us that we should be expecting it. And after a while, it just throws a VSS code. And I don't get that. It's a totally different sensor. I get that it's kind of linked and everything's together, but they should all have different codes. So that's my rant, and I think that's why so many people are having such a hard time with this. because their local dealers cannot pin down the VSS issues, and they just get frustrated, and I don't blame them at all. Can Am really needs to get on their dealers for this type of thing, but they get frustrated. They're like, oh, my dealer can't fix this, it keeps throwing the same code, and they just sell their Rykers. And that's a shame, because these machines are really, really nice machines for what they are. And since that issue, since I got that bike back, so what I said, like 200 miles, it was a little over 200, because I already did the break-in procedure and all that stuff. So safe to say, about 33 to 3,500 miles, problem-free, knock on wood, no problems with this thing. And you guys know me, you know how Blackphoenix rolls. I take care of my stuff, but I also ride my stuff hard. And this thing has been ridden, drips, burnouts, donuts, all that type of stuff, high speed runs, and it takes it all. And I'll have to say, it is not stock. So a lot of people are having problems with stock Rykers, and they don't even get to the modification process. I've got the intake, I've got the catch can, and I've got the Treal Performance race exhaust on this with a tune from BLRtuning. Again, no issues. And I know there's that guy, well, there's several guys on the forums that are just like, oh, why do you do that? You don't have to touch your stuff, blah, 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 you're gonna break it. No. In fact, it runs even better than it did before. And, yeah, again, I don't know how I can reiterate, 0 issues. So we got the issues thing out of the way. I put some miles on it, and there are a few things that I do kind of wish could be upgraded or were a little bit better, especially if you're paying for like a sport model or a rally model. The brakes. The brakes are very spongy, very soft, and I notice it right away coming from a Spyder. Like, maybe someone who hasn't ridden a Spyder before and you jump right on a Ryker at first, you don't notice it. But if you swap between the two, you will definitely see a difference with the big brake Brembos that the Spyders have and the little itty bitty brakes that the Rykers have. And yeah, it took me quite a bit to get used to braking much, much earlier and longer in the Ryker than I do on this, ever did on my Spyder, and it weighs less. So if someone came out with a better brake kit or something for this, that would be what I would switch to once these brakes are pretty much done. The other extremely annoying and stupid thing that Can Am engineers did, like I said, they took all these parts out of other vehicles. I don't know where this gas tank came from, but it was not made for an upward-facing fill, I guess. So when they turned this tank diagonally or upwards to fit the Ryker frame, they didn't change any of the sensors, fuel flow, anything. So it does not register correctly when you're filling it until you're about, I'd say about half done, about half a tank, and then it starts registering on the LCD that, like, hey, your gas is going down. And it is trippy. If you don't know that right out of the box, you're like, oh, I'm just riding along, and all of a sudden your gas gauge goes down within like 50 miles, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, it's just, it's not even an oversight, it's just a terrible design, because you knew when you put these things out that they did that. And it's like, how quality control the engineers are like, oh yeah, that's fine. No, it's not fine. You guys need to spend a little bit extra money on some newer models and either, one, create a gas tank that fits this thing and works, or two, find a sensor that works for this and reads the gas gauge correctly, because that would be nice. So what you really have to do with this, go my dude, is do it by mileage. Like, one of my trip meters, one's for oil, one is for gas, and I just look at how far I've gone and kind of judge what the Ryker's telling me, and then decide whether or not I want to fill up or not. But with all that being said, these things are super fun. You can whip this around, like I said, I can do donuts, high-speed runs. Definitely could use a little bit more power. I mean, I love the tune and the mods that I've done to this. It's definitely added to it, but you know, I really, for how I ride for the most part or whatever, this is enough for city riding and the occasional, you know, trip to Mexico. So, I mean, that's it. It gets a thumbs up from me. I mean, again, besides those first initial issues, which, again, that's not a Ryker-specific issue. That is a dealer issue. And I will reiterate that over and over again, that these dealers just don't know what to do with these bikes. They don't know how to fix them. They don't know what they are. And when they get them, like if they're not an actual Can-Am dealer and they're just like another bike shop that just happens to sell Can-Am products, they don't know how to build them. Because I had 2 build issues with this bike that I had to bring it back for before I really even put any miles on it. And again, that just keeps reinforcing the fact that there's not very good techs out there for this stuff. But all that aside, if you really want to deal with some of those minor inconveniences, and I'm going to put as a big and, I can't go, dude. A big and, if you do your own work, a lot of this stuff is almost null and void, because then you can just deal with the issues yourself and just kind of fix stuff and replace stuff with better stuff as you go along. So anyways, not going to rant anymore. If you guys have any questions, leave me some comments, message me on Instagram, you can email me, all that fun social media stuff, and just let me know. I'll answer them the best I can. And as always, if the question warrants a full video and it's a super long answer and I think other people benefit from it, I'll make a whole nother video out of your question. I don't mind. It gives me something to do. So with all that being said, again, I will reiterate, because I don't know, I'm trying to use words. Go down there and do all the fun YouTube stuff, the subscribing, the liking, checking out my discount codes, checking out my Blackphoenix merch, and trying to save the kittens, because you guys are rocking with the flock. And I'll see you on the next video.